Okay, so it has just gone 2 o'clock. I would like to welcome everybody here today to this NITheCS mini school programming basics with Python. We have this with Dr. Sunday Oladejo, Stellenbosch University. So thank you very, very much to Sunday for preparing this talk. Hello to everybody. As the custom here is, well, it's interesting if you put in the chat, where you're from, where do you sit, what is your affiliation. That's nice to see, who else is here, because what we aim to do is to build a nice community where people can all connect and meet each other. So Sunday, I'm going to hand over to you. People on here to listen to me. There we go. Centurion, Gauteng. Interesting to know also your universities. Thanks, Palesa. Yeah, last week it was phenomenal to see all the amount of people from all over Morocco, India, all over South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, many, many different places. So please, welcome. Thank you. Have a wonderful session. And please remember, for those of you that haven't joined our mailing list, please go to the NITheCS website, NITheCS. Go to just sign up for the mailing list, and you will receive wonderful announcements like this, so that in the future you can be sure not to, not to miss an opportunity like this. All of the training NITheCS provides is free. It is online and it gets recorded to YouTube. So if you miss it or you need to run off, it's there. You can share it with colleagues. So thank you very much for being here today and welcome to this mini school. Thank you, Sunday. People are here to listen to you. Over to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Renee. So good afternoon, good morning, good day, depending on where you are at. My name is Sunday once again, and welcome to week 2 of the mini school. I'll quickly share my screen and then we'll start. Let's see. Okay, so I'll turn off my camera because of bandwidth issues so that this wouldn't um, interrupt the flow. Yeah. All right, so can you all see my screen? Okay, good. That's good. All right. So let's start with what we have today. But before we play with the codes for today, I'll give a quick recap of what we did last week. So last week, I did introduce what programming is. Simply, it is the process of creating a set of instructions that will tell the computer how to perform a particular task. We also looked at what an IDE is, an integrated development environment. We discussed the basic data types and as well as operators. We played with certain operations, addition, multiplication, squares and square root and the likes. And then we also um, played with variables. I did introduce you to variables. And lastly, briefly, we touched on arrays. And so we will start with arrays today. But before I start with what an array is, I would like you to go to Google Colab. And for you to do that, go to Google, go to your browser, type Google, and then in in the search box, type Google Colab, which is the short form for Google Collaboratory. Type Google Colab, and then down in the results list, click on Google Colab. It will take you to the screen, what you have on the screen. And then I would advise that you start a new notebook and click on new notebook. If you have a new notebook, you already have your notebook running, can you give a thumbs up before we proceed? I'll wait for 1 more minute for others who are here um, to have the environment set up. So you should have the Google Colab environment. If you are yet to do that, kindly go to Google or to your browser, and then in the search box, type Google Colab, click on that. You would find Google Collaboratory in the result. Click on it and then click on a new notebook. All right, thank you. So let's move on to our today's class. Last week, we briefly touched on arrays, but I said something before which was quite important when you start a new notebook. What you want to do is to load in your libraries. We have several types of libraries. Matplotlib, Seaborn, pandas, numerical Python, NumPy, and the likes. But for this class, we would use the numerical Python library. For you to load the library, you type in import library. I'll wait. If you can see my screen clearly, give a thumbs up. So as to be sure that you can all right, good. That's fine. So kindly type import numeric numpy and type this. Just type this import numpy. And when you're done with that, click on the button, the run button beside it. Great. I have my library, NumPy library loaded, and I'm sure you have yours as well loaded. So let's discuss arrays. So arrays, they represent multiple data elements of the same type using a single name. So an array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. In our last class, we looked at a variable, and I'll try this out so that you have like a quick recap of what we did last week. Let's carry out these operations. Operation 2 raised to the power of 4. That gives us 2 raised to power 4 gives us 16. Um, Rahul asked the question, hi, Dr. Sunday, why do we import NumPy as NP? Right? You can type in import NumPy without the as NP. It will still work. But because we would be using this the name of the library often and often, so we don't want to type out NumPy. For instance, assuming we have we know there's a library called matplotlib. You don't want to be typing matplotlib every now and then. Rather, you would find an alias for that. So in order to avoid typing numpy every now and then, we use the alias np. I hope that answers your question, Rahul. All right. So we in this instance we have 2 raised to power 4 are 16. But we want to make use of this value in order um, for other operations as well. And so we save the value 16 into a variable called, you can decide on what variable, but I will say A, capital A. And then I want to do that again so that you see how it's been done. Let's copy. And then I'll run that. So now let's see what A holds, the value in A. That is 16. So in other words, our variable name is called A, capital A, and variables are um, they are capital sensitive. Just a quick, they are capital sensitive. Just a minute. So our variable is called A, and it holds the value 16. It holds only a single value, and that value is 16. But for arrays hold more than one value. That's why I said, well, that's why we have it here. An array is a special type of variable which can hold more than one value at a time. And so let's see what an array looks like. This is an example of a number array. Gopani, your question is, how do I tell the library is loaded? Okay, so for that, we look at the green tick here. It shows that the operation was successful. If it wasn't, it will show I'll show you one, and then later on I'll show you it should show a red sign or a cross mark sign that it wasn't successful. But because it was successful, that's why we have a tick and it's green. And the numbers beside it, 0s, shows the computational time. In this case, it's 0 seconds. How do we access the previous session on YouTube? It will be shared with you later on. That's what it will be shared with you later on. So we have different types of arrays, right? I just showed you one here. This number array, contains 10, 25, 32, 47, 56. But one thing is peculiar to this, they hold the same data type. The data type must be the same, right? And that's why you look at here, and it's important you take note of this. Um, they hold an array represent multiple data elements of the same type. And now here we have integers or numbers. Now let's look at another array, an example of an array. We have an array, this string array. It contains string text. Please take note that there's all of these are strings because they're in quotation marks. And then we can also have 2D array, 3D arrays, and 4 and different types of arrays. But let's play with arrays now. Let's create these two arrays. I will leave out the third array, which is the 2D array. We'll play with that later in the third week when we work on iterations and the likes. We will create this with an iteration. But for today, let's create these two arrays, 10, 25, 32, 47, 56. And how do we do that? For us to do that, we will use the numerical Python library, NP NumPy library. Now, because we've loaded that library as NumPy as NP, when we call this library NumPy, it will be as NP. So it will be NP. And so for us to create an array, we use the word array. So it will be array, np.array. And then we have a bracket. Bracket is tied to that particular keyword array. So we use bracket. But because we have more than one value, our array holds more than a value, right? In this instance, 10, 20, 25, and the likes. So we then have that in a square bracket. And we type in those values. 10, comma, 25, comma. You don't have to create a space, but for readability, that's why I have a space in between 47 and 56. So with this, we run. So we have np.array. The keyword here, the key functional word here is array. The np represents the numerical Python, and this speaks to the question that was asked earlier on by Rahul. Why do we import np as a numpy as? So we don't have to be typing numpy every now and then. We just use np as an alias for that. And so we run this. It gives us an array 10, 25, 32. But we can save this into a variable, right? And then let's say Q1 doesn't matter, or I would say example E1 for example one. And I want to show that you can also save this um, in a variable as well. Just like I showed earlier. If you have done this, can you give a thumbs up to be sure that you're okay? All right. I'll wait for others. If you have done this, if you've created this, if you have this E1 or depending on the name of the variable you have, but these are it. All right. Let's move on to let's create the second array. Let's create the second array. The second array, it's a string, right? Remember, we have fruits. We have the different types of fruits, apple, banana, cherry, orange, and the likes. So let's create that array. Let's name our variable fruits. So that array, what we're saying is that the value within the array will then save it into that variable called fruits. Okay, so fruits, and then remember for us to create an array, we use numerical Python np dot array. We take into consideration the brackets, the circular bracket and the rectangular bracket. And then we start with our strings here. Remember, the first one is apple, banana, cherry, orange. But note that these are strings, so we can either have them in double quotation or single quotation. It doesn't matter. I'll try apple, and then there's a space, and then we try banana, and we give a comma, a space. We do cherry. Oh, sorry, my bad. Not in within. Okay, I purposely leave this for, I purposely make this mistake. And that's to answer the question of someone asked that question. How do we tell if the library is loaded or not? I don't see anything in particular. So there's a mistake here. This cherry is not within the brackets, right? So let's see if we can, let's see what happens there, right? You can see the exclamation mark stating that there is an error here. This is to answer the question of Gopani. So when you run your cell, and it's successful, you have a green tick. But however, if it is not, then you have that exclamation mark in red and the type of error. Now the error here is showing there's an error here, which is there's the caret sign here, or the arrow sign here, points to the fact that there's an error here, invalid syntax. But I know that this was done purposely. So let's do the right thing. Cherry, um, and then let's include orange, orange, and so we run this. So we have our array called fruit, but let's see what fruit looks like. I'll just type in fruit and click run. If you have this, if you've done this and you've created an array called fruit with the kindly give it thumbs up or love, or so that I know I have not lost the class. Okay. For those viewing on YouTube, there's a thumbs up for the recording session. Viewing the recording session, there's a thumbs up via the Zoom display here. That's why you might not see that via the recorded session. Now, thank you everyone. So let's move on to we've created arrays. But this is a basic way of creating an array. It's a manual way of creating arrays. What if we have an array of numbers, 1 million elements, right? So each of these apple, banana, cherry, they are elements of the arrays, right? Assuming we have 1 million, a million elements, that means do we have to type in, or a million numbers or a sequence of numbers, do we have to type that in manually? That takes time and that will take forever, right? So the best thing is in Python, we have an automatic way of creating arrays. And there are two ways to do that. So when it comes to creating a sequence of values, we use the arange and linspace. So these are the two commonly used NumPy functions. But there's a subtle difference between these two functionalities, the linspace and the arange. Are you creating arrays on code or on cell? So we use code, not text. So this is to matter. This is your question matter asking, are you creating arrays on code or text cell? So we use the code cell, not the text cell. The text cell is for commenting, for readability, but when we instruct the computer or the environment on what to do, then we use the code cell. Now we have two types, linspace and the arange. These two, there's a subtle difference between the two, which I will show you later on. So for the arange, allows you to specify the size of the steps. For instance, and that could be, let's look at this. In between numbers, let's have a step of 5. So assuming we start with the first element is 0 or 0, then the second element will be 5, the third will be 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 30, 40, 45, and that's where we make use of the arange. We specify the step size. However, for the linspace, we only specify the number of steps. And I'll give an example before we play with code set. So for linspace, let's assume we want to create, we have 10 elements between, we don't know the numbers, right? We just want 10 elements or 10 numbers between 5 and 60. Between the numbers starting from 5 and 60, we want 10 numbers in between, equally spaced. That's where you use linspace. But not to confuse you, let's play with this and then you will get answer on what to do. I'll skip this. Well, I'll explain this later on but let's start with a range. Let's start with a range. If you're cool, if you understand this subtle difference between the two, give it thumbs up, and then we then progress into with the examples. All right, I see that the class, yeah, the class is good. So let's create it. Let's start with MPA range. Here we just start with simple, and a simple example. I want to create. To do that, we use the numerical Python library np.arange, and we use our brackets. We specify the start and the but let's just I won't specify the start, stop, and step. I just enter in a number and I want you to see what this would look like. np.arange 10. What you have here is that it gives you a sequence of numbers starting from 0. In Python, we start counting from 0, not from 1. The counting starts with 0 in Python. So we start counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and down to 9. Now, in MPA range, it excludes the value 10. So this number 10 is not included in the results. However, if you count this element, you have 10 elements with a step size of 1. That's the default. Let's try one more example, MPA range. And then we do, let's do 7. It gives you counts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, and let's go a step further. I then want to indicate my starting number, the start number. Unlike before, I only indicated the stop number or the stop sequence. Now let's indicate a start number. That could be whatever. Can anyone suggest a start number in the text, in the chat? Someone, okay, I'll go with Abubakar. Abubakar 7. No, okay, we've done 7, so let's not. I'll go with Clarice 16. Okay, let's start with Clarice 16, np.arange 16. And then this stop number. Clarice, can you just type in any stop number? Okay, no, okay. I will start with let's start with 30 first, and then we now go to Clarice said 3 later on. But let's do 30. Um, let's run this. So what gives us? This gives us a sequence of numbers starting from 16, with a step size of 1 and ends at 29. Let's try out what Clarice said, and let's play with Clarice indicated is stop 3. She said 16. Let's play with that for 3 and say we're starting at 16 and then we end at 3. So this gives us, I don't want to explain this now. Maybe when we move on to lean space, then I can talk about this. Right. So, but let's try out one more step. Let's include a step size of 3 and then 30. This is further to the previous example. So in the previous cell, we have the start number of 16 and then ends at 30, but 30 not inclusive. So we start with 16, we have a step size of 3, and then ends at 30, but we know that 30 isn't included. So when we run this, um, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. No, I don't want, okay. I can as well do that, but I don't want that for now. Let me just do this. Let's go to empty range. 16. Let's do 2 and then 30. Let's run this. Shows us this. Oh, sorry, my bad. Oh, sorry, guys. This is my bad. What I wanted to do was 16, comma 3. This starts at 16, ends at 30, and here we have a step size of 3. And that gives us 16, 19, 22, 25, 28. Note that 30 is not inclusive yet. It's not included in the array that we have here. Before we move on to linspace, if you could, you have, yeah, can you say, yeah, he says, sorry, I've just been cautious of time. That was why, yeah, you picked that up. So if you're good with this, can you just give a thumbs up before we move on to linspace, and then we go on to conditionals. All right, good. So let's move on to linspace. So I said earlier on that for linspace, it's also we use numerical Python, but for linspace, we don't specify the step size like I did in the last one. We only specify the number of elements. For instance, we have the sequence starts from 10 and then it ends at 46. But I want 12 elements within, equally spaced. How do we do that with linspace? To do that, we would use the same, it will be np.linspace. Our start is, I said 10, right? And then the stop here is 46, but we want to have 16 elements within, equally spaced, 16 elements within. So we have this. We have 10, and this is where, please kindly pay attention to this. We have 10, 12.5, 14.8, 17.2, and then we have 46. So for linspace includes the stop element or the stop number, unlike in A range. The A range doesn't, for A range, it excludes the stop number or the stop value or the end value. However, for linspace, it includes it, and that's why we have 46 here. Let's try one more example. Let's create a sequence of 11 evenly spaced values between 0 and 20. Evenly spaced value of between 0 and 20, linspace between 0 and 20. We want 11 evenly spaced values. So this gives us 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 14. But note that there's a dot here. It shows that these are um, it's a float is a float data type, right? You might wonder why. How do I know that this is a one good way to do that is I'll quickly show you how to do that. Let's assume that this is a variable called b, and I'll run this again, and then I'll just use the print keyword. Print is a special word in Python. Print, small letter print, is a keyword in Python. You just and it's for showing or displaying values. Show it on the screen what the values. So that I will type in B, and I want to see the type of the data type for B. It shows float. However, I don't want float. I don't want this to. I don't want B as in in decimal point or in float point. So what I can do, the simple way of doing that is to include the data type within that in when in creating this array. Okay, let's do that again. Let's create that array again. NPA. Yes, Desmond Desmond is asking, is linspace a code to generate an arithmetic sequence? Yes, yes, linspace and a range. Okay, so let's quickly do this. Let's create this again, and then we move on to conditionals. But let's do that. I want to copy this. Don't want to start. I'll copy this and then bring, I don't waste our time. But there's something that we include here. We include the data type, D type, and we say that it is an integer. We want integers. And that's why you have 0, 2, 4, 6, 3, 8. If you have questions, or okay, before I say if you have tried this out, these examples, give a thumbs up in the chat. Give a thumbs up in your reactions, and so that um, good. Fulani managed to fix it. Thank you. I'm still waiting for that. Or I can, yeah, this script will be shared. It will be shared with you guys before the link to where you can download later on you'll find, but we want you to also practice in class as well. All right, so let's move on to conditionals. What are conditional statements? And this is very important in programming. We need this for decision making. A conditional statement is one where an action is performed if a pre-specified condition is satisfied, and another or no action is performed if the condition is not satisfied. Simply stated, so a conditional statement performs an action if a condition is satisfied. That condition must be pre-stated or pre-specified. However, if the condition is not satisfied, then it performs a different set of actions or no action at all, depending on how the code is written. So conditional statements are they are an easy way to take different actions based on some conditions being fulfilled or not. So in Python, we use if statement for the conditional statement. I'll show you. I won't go through why do we have to do this. I don't have to explain because of time. Decision making, it helps decision making, improves code logic, simplifies coding, supports complex decisions, and the likes. But what is what is a conditional statement? What does it look like? This is what it looks like. It's an if condition. We have a statement. We need to take a decision. We need to make a decision. if a condition is satisfied, that means, oh, that's true. Then it comes to this and performs this set of actions. However, if that condition is not satisfied, it performs a different set of action. In Python, we use the if. There are two ways of going about conditional statements. We have the if-else statement and the elif statement. I will explain later on what this looks like. Okay. So this is what the syntax looks like. Don't bother about this. I will explain. How can I get access to the notebook? Crystal, before the class ends, I will share the link where we will have it's a Google Drive link. It's there for anyone and it's free. You can always download at your own time. Yeah. All right. But we want you to participate in class as well. So, but there are some key rules when it comes to if else statement. So the if, we use the if, you will see this later on, and I'll show you, we will play with examples in this class. 3 examples or 2 thereabout for each of the 2 types of. So we use the if helps us to check a condition, and then the else checks, oh, if it doesn't, now if, since this condition wasn't met or the condition wasn't satisfied, then it runs a different set of actions. So in Python, when it comes to the conditional statement, it takes into consideration indentation. So your indentation matters. What do I mean? The number of, when you press your space bar, how you press your space bar matters. I'll show you how to overcome that. But for us to carry out a conditional check, we use certain operators. We use equals to. We can as well use the greater than sign or less than sign, greater than or equal to, or a less than or equal to sign. Please note this. This is an equal double. This sign here means equal to. Now, in the previous cell, when we have only one equality sign, that's for assignment. That's rather called an assignment, where we assign a value to a variable, right? But when you have this, it shows that we're looking for equality condition here. And then we have the greater than, less than, greater or equal to, or, and so let's play with an example for the if-else statement. If you are good with this, I will then proceed, can give a thumbs up, so that I know I've not lost the class, and we can proceed with if-else examples. Gopani is asking, does it mean conditional statements are purely numerical data types? Or you will see that later on. You will decide that for yourself. I will show you examples, and then you will decide whether the examples will answer your question. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. This basic example, and this is an everyday example. So let's assume that your age, let's assume there's a variable called age, and age has a value of 5. Please note that I'll press my enter button, and then I'll type if. Now what we want to do here, if the age of that fellow, of a fellow, of a young, or of an individual is less than 18, we will say the fellow is a minor. But if otherwise, that is, if the age is greater than 18, then we will print you're an adult. So how do we go about that? So simply, let's use our if else condition to do that. I will start with if, and you will notice that immediately the if changed color. And that shows that this is a keyword in Python. If age, our variable here, if age is greater or equal to 18, and please note that there is a column. Column shows that that's the end of that conditional statement. And then I'll press my enter, it goes down. And then I'll then print, um, I then print you're an adult. That's what I intend to do. Print. So the print would be inside the print you are an adult. You are an adult. And so if this condition is met, if the age is or greater than 18 or equals to 18, it will print an adult. And then I'll press enter. So I'll press my tab key, shift tab key to go backwards so that the else will align with the if. And then you press a column. That column states that if else, do what is below. I'll press my enter key, and then I'll press my tab, and then I'll type print. You are a minor. Okay, I will explain this before. So I'll explain this again before I run this code. I know it will work, but I'll explain this again. So I started by declaring a variable called age, and then it has a value of 5, right? And then I started with my if else condition. I started with if, and then immediately the word changed color, showing it's a keyword. Age greater or equals to 18. The column here shows that that's the end of that conditional statement. And then I'll press, and then press enter button. So when you press the enter button, it will bring you to underneath the EF here. Press one space bar. Press the space bar. Sorry, the tab. Sorry, I said the space. Sorry, the tab key, and then you can then type print. Now, what I want to do, if this condition is fulfilled, is satisfied, the first condition is satisfied, then I want the computer to print you an adult. However, that's where the else comes in. If not, if the age is less than, then it print. If you have typed this and you have a minor, give a thumbs up and we'll play with this. Okay, so let's change this to 50. Good. Let's change the age to 50 and try it again. All right, now it says you're an adult. Let's try 15. You can change it to whatever number, and then you click on you are a minor. Yeah, that's an example of if else statement. But let's now do one more example of checking a number. We want to check if a number is a positive number or a negative number. Let's try that. Okay. So let me do the password. Let's just follow this. The password check example. So I think this will answer the question that was asked some few minutes ago with respect to is it that it has to be numerical values or strings. So let's start with the password. So I will create a variable called password. My variable is called password, but note that a password can have numbers, it can have alphabets, so that means it will be a string. So let me, I will create this password. Oh, sorry, this is AI and I don't want that to, I want to type it out in here. Now I have this password 123 as it's stored in a variable called password. All right. So if that's the case, let us, someone says the I getting indentation error. Use tab key, the tab key rather than space, but that would help you. So we press enter and then I type if password is great equal to, please look at the double equal, the equality sign. If password is equal to, and then please note that I'm using, because this is a string, that's why I have it. And then I have my um, column. Please press enter now, and it will take you to just beneath the if statement. Press your tab key and then type print access granted. However, sorry, my bad here. I'll press enter. Now it takes me, but because my else, I wanted an else statement. The else statement must align with the if. So what to do is to press your shift and tab key. It will take it one step backward. You press it again. It will take you to, so for me to go backwards, I press my shift down and my tab key. Took me a step backward, another step backward. And then I can then type my else. Now in this case, my else is, we don't want any other stuff. We'll just use the column. And then I press enter. Now I want my um, the next action to be aligned with the previous print. So you press your tab key and you would notice that it now you can now type in print access not granted or access denied. Um, Access denied. Okay. Let's run this. Now it says access granted. So what to say if I want to print? So Mukgadi, Palisa, your question is if I want to print the one to be aligned with the password, what do I do? You play with your tab key. Your tab key is critical here, and the tab key on your keyboard. You use the tab key to move some step forward, and then for you to go backward, you use Shift tab. So now if you have this, give a thumbs up. And then, all right. So let's change this to capital P. Capital P here, the password here. Let's change it to capital P. Now my password now holds a value, capital P, small letter A, small letter S, small letter W, 1, 2, 3. So it's denied. How is that? So when it comes here, let me explain this. So we have a variable called password with capital P. So when it comes here, what it does is it compares the value within this password, which is capital P password, and it compares it with this. And since they are not the same, it is case sensitive. Then it doesn't print what you have in here. because it was false, it didn't satisfy the condition, it comes to the else statement. And then from the else statement, it then prints access denied. Um, if you um, if you are good with this example, can you give a thumbs up before um, we move on to the elif statement? All right, good. I see the classes. Yeah, that's sorry, my bad. Oh shit, my email. So sorry. So um, so sorry for that. So let's move on to elif statement. So for the elif statement, now remember for the elif statement is just the same as the else if, but now we have several else. I'll show you what that looks like now with an example, and then we will end the class. So the if takes into consideration many else. Uh, if this doesn't work, if this is not true, it tries the next condition. If it isn't true, it tries the next condition. I'll quickly type in this condition. Sorry, this slide. Uh, I'll use the H category. Sorry, I'll quickly type in this code input because of time. Enter your age. And then I'll do this. I'll type in my conditions now. If age is less than 13, go to the print. And then I'll remember I told you, you press the tab key and it goes, I want to print the age of the child. Um, I don't want to use the AI prompt. I want to use my own. You are a child. And then I move on to the next if, else if. I will use my shift tab. I press the shift tab again. I have my elif. I then try now not else, but elif age 20. I'll press my tab key. I'll print you're a teenager, and then I'll try 60. If you are if it's less than 60, I'll print teenager. And then I want to add one else, the else here, print, and then we can then close the class. And so, yeah, senior. I'll run this, and then let's see what it looks like. So it prompts you, enter your age. You might wonder, how did we do this? It's because of this input keyword. The input keyword helps us to, enter the age. The int here ensures that it changes into an integer. Now, so what we have here is we have an age, and then let's assume we have age 17 or 16. What it does is it carries out 16 is 13, is 16 less than 13. If it is no or yes, it looks at the conditions and then it picks the first one that truly satisfies the conditions. I'll type in 16 and then now you are a teenager. I'll try this again. I'll run this again. I can then type in 27. I'll press enter. You are an adult. I'll run this again. And then I'll type in 89. Enter. Right. So we've been able to play with, I'll share this code. I'll share the link to this. I'll do that now before I hand over to Renee so that you can have access to the drive, to the files. Just 1 minute. I'll copy it. I need to copy. Copy link. Okay. Now the link is in the shared. Please don't type in, just it's in there so that everyone can have access to it. Now, so with this, in this, we played with the elif statement. So at the beginning of today's class, we played with arrays. We looked at the A range arrays, how to play with the A range and the lane space. I showed you the subtle difference between the two. And then we looked at conditionals. We looked at the else, if, and the elif statement. In our next class, we look at iterations. But in our next class, we play with two more examples. We would look at two more examples with else and elif before we then move on to iterations. And at this point, I would hand over to Renee. Thank you so much. Renee, over to you. Josephine, Josephine, you'll find the videos for last week's video. It's on YouTube. It's on NITheCS website. You'll find it on NITheCS website, and I'll then hand over to Renee. Thank you so much. Yep. Uh, I'll quickly see if I can share the video, the link to the previous video. Mm. Just a quick one. Trying to see if I can get the link to the previous video so I can share with the class in the link. Unfortunately, I can't. Okay, let me see if I can get it. Mm, I'll share the link with you guys. Um, mm, okay, I have the link. I'll share the link now. Just 1 minute, and then you'll find the link for those who missed the last class. So the link is in the chat. You'll find it in there for the last video. Thank you so much. At this point, we're in the class, and thank you. Over to you, Renee. I think Renee is having difficulties with. All right. Thank you. Bye bye. See you next week. Um, Yeah, someone said the Google Drive link still needs to have. Yes, I would upload lesson 2. I will save, download, and then upload to the Google Drive link. You will get that in the next 10 minutes.